Hello, and welcome to Another Home Sold, a show about Wellesley real estate. My name is Steven.Verdelli, and I'm a Realtor with Coldwell-Banker on Central Street in Wellesley. Today, our guest is Susan Ausiello, manager of the Coldwell-Banker office on Central Street in Wellesley. Hi, Susan. Thanks for coming today.
Thank you so much for having me, Steve.
My pleasure. My pleasure. I'd love to talk to you a little bit about Coldwell-Banker today in the office, but first, I'd like to know a little bit more about you.
I've lived here in Wellesley since 1976 with my husband and two sons, and it's been a wonderful experience. We moved here when my children were preschoolers, and they were raised here in Wellesley, went through the Wellesley school system, and now they're both married. One's an executive producer for ESPN Sports, and my younger son is an endocrinologist in Manhattan. Wonderful. And I'm blessed with 4 grandchildren, which, as you know, is my greatest joy in life. So
that's wonderful.
Yes.
And you were also a Wellesley College graduate.
I am. I graduated from Wellesley College in 1968, so it was very much like moving home when we came back here.
So you're practically a Wellesley native like me.
Yeah, not quite, but almost.
That's great. That's great. Now, Susan, you are the manager of the Coldwell-Banker office in Wellesley, and how long have you been the manager there?
Since February of 1987. Very shortly. Coldwell-Banker came to Wellesley in 1985. At that time, we were actually owned by the Sears Financial Network. And then in 1991, we were acquired by Hunneman Company, which was a very old-line Boston real estate company, known primarily for representing high-end real estate in the Boston market. And we were acquired by Hunneman, and in turn, they franchised their offices back to Coldwell-Banker. So we became Hunneman & Company Coldwell-Banker. And since we were acquired in 1991, we have had #1 market share in the town of Wellesley, which is something that I'm very proud of.
So Coldwell-Banker has been #1 in market share in Wellesley since 1991.
1991, yes.
Wow, that's quite a feather in your cap. And
well,
your agents.
It's a feather in my agent's cap, absolutely.
That's great. Now, what made you go from realtor or agent to manager of the office?
I had, prior to having children, been a trust investment officer for the Provident National Bank in Philadelphia. I managed trust funds. And so I was used to big business, and quite honestly, I liked the idea of running a real estate office, but I particularly liked the idea of running it with someone else's money.
Of course.
Yes.
That can always be fun.
It's it's a huge burden anyways, and I look at it as if it's my own money. I feel great responsibility for it, but it's still very different. It isn't my money.
It isn't your money, and that's kind of probably the way most agents look at when they're doing a real estate deal. They take it very personally, as if they were making the purchase themselves and want to do the absolute best possible deal for their clients.
Absolutely, and I think that's what I'm most proud of it. My first office meeting in 1997, I said that we were out to prove that nice guys could finish first, that you could do business the right way and you could still be #1. And I think that's what's most important to me, and I think the proof is in the pudding. I think we would not have maintained our #1 market share position had we not done business the right way all these years.
With honesty and integrity.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about that. Since 1987 to 2014, social media, internet, how has real estate changed?
It's changed dramatically. When I first started in the business, we used to carry around a little book in which we had copies of all the listings, and we actually used to maintain a book in the front of the office where we'd have Polaroid pictures of all these houses. So it's changed dramatically. The consumer today obviously has much more information, which is good news and bad news. It's good news in that they come to us knowing much more about what they want, what their likes are, what their dislikes are. They followed real estate, they know different neighborhoods and whatever. The concern is that there is a difference between having information and having knowledge. The consumer comes with a lot of raw data, but it's our job to interpret that data for them. And it's very important because if you were thinking of having open heart surgery, my guess is that you would not even consider the possibility of doing open heart surgery on yourself.
No.
But many consumers think that they're equipped to handle their own real estate transaction, and it's actually much more complicated in many ways than when I started in the business, because Mold was not an issue. Radon was not an issue. It was not as difficult to be pre-qualified for a loan. I mean, ever since 2008, when the market crashed, which is interesting because, you know, ever since I was in the business, the market did nothing but go up, 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 up. I think in some ways the newer agents were better equipped to deal with that than some of the older agents because their expectation was not the same. You know,
Sure.
The agents who'd been in the business for 20 years, you know, the market was supposed to go up. This was not supposed to happen. So, you know, it's become much more difficult
Sure.
to qualify for a mortgage. And so, again, you need a real estate professional by
guide
your
you through
side
that.
helping you through that.
Well, you brought up a good point about, you know, self-surgery, or I think, you know, going to a discount surgeon who would do it out of the back
That's
of their
right.
van compared to a professional surgeon who would do it in a hospital. There are professional realtors, and there are people who, you know, do it on the sly or do it, you know, not so directly and not so with integrity and honesty, I think,
Right.
as in other firms that we have here. So I know that social media has changed the face of real estate drastically. What about going back to basics? In our office, for instance, on Central Street, how many languages are represented there?
I think about 6 or 7 languages, and certainly we have access through our headquarters and through our network of Coldwell-Banker agents. We have basically, you know, brokers in our New England company who can speak just about any language you can think of. But I can think of about 6 languages off the top of
right
my
out
head.
of Wellesley,
Yeah.
I think. Exactly. Exactly. And do you feel that social media, the internet, and the information that people are now availed to has really helped move the process along or hindered it?
You know, I think on balance it has helped. It certainly allowed the agent to have tools to promote listings that we never had before. Certainly something like what you're doing is, you know, thinking outside the box, but we have wonderful technology at Coldwell-Banker. We have something called Home Base in Touch, where if somebody emails our website and wants information on a particular listing, that's converted to a cell phone call, and it goes right to the listing broker's cell phone, and we can get back to them immediately, because that's one thing that we found out is that when people are on the web, they want immediate response. They don't want to hear back a day later or a week later or a month later or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't get back to them within about 10 or 15 minutes, that lead is gone. And we have a wonderful story. One of our experienced agents in the office had a very high-end listing in Westwood, and that was actually displayed in a previews display, which is our high-end marketing division, in an office on the waterfront. And that particular seller happened to be in Boston on a lovely summer evening, stopped in front of the waterfront office, emailed his broker and said, "Oh my God, I'm standing in front of a photo of my house." And within 5 minutes, the broker called him back, and he was absolutely floored. So that's an example of technology really at its best and working on behalf of our sellers in particular.
Oh, it's technology in real time.
Right.
No delays.
Absolutely.
And that's pretty much exclusive to Coldwell-Banker.
Yes, it is.
This type
yeah.
of technology.
Yeah, and it's key, yes.
And this is the type of technology that they continue to build on.
That's correct. The other thing
wonderful.
that I feel differentiates us as a firm is that we're a real company. We have a legal staff in our headquarters in Waltham. In addition to having 2 marketing people in our local office here on Central Street, we have a full marketing department in Waltham. We have a full-time training division, which as a manager I think is absolutely key, because it keeps our agents at the forefront of trends in real estate, what's important, what is important to represent, what is not important to represent, and whatever. So I feel very strongly that our agents are the best trained agents in the industry.
So you touched base. There's the legal staff in Waltham at our headquarters.
Right.
I mean, what can ever go wrong in a real estate transaction?
Well, you know, and it's not even necessarily something going wrong. It's, you know, you have a question, you listed a house. Is this, the seller doesn't want you to disclose something. Should it be disclosed? Shouldn't it be disclosed? Some of this is counterintuitive.
So really, our legal staff is there as a proactive measure to make sure that we do things right.
That's correct. And I
Okay.
would say that's about 95% of what we use our legal staff for.
And those are outsourced staff or in-house staff?
No, we have 4 in-house attorneys on
Wow.
staff in Waltham, and then we do have other major Boston firms that we have contracts with if we have to outsource things. But
So this way we can stay on top of what the latest rules are, regulations, forms, et cetera, anything that needs to be done to make it completed.
And you know, having done this for 27 years, I can tell you that very rarely does a day go by that I don't learn something new or have a question or whatever. And it's wonderful to be able to just pick up the phone and say, you know, this is my instinct, this is how I think it should be handled, but, you know, am I on the right course or whatever?
So you've got a direct access to these attorneys to bounce ideas off of questions, anything like that.
That's right, which quite honestly, if I were a mom and pop operation and every time I picked up the phone it was costing me anywhere between $500 and $750 an hour, I might not be so quick to pick up the phone. So
Yeah.
as a manager, I think it's a tremendous, tremendous resource for our buyers and sellers and certainly our sales associates.
Sure. So let's talk a little bit about the Wellesley Market right now. As we know, Wellesley is a great community. You know, of course, we're a little bit biased because we love it
Absolutely.
here, as you know, as natives here. One of the wealthiest communities on the East Coast, probably one of the wealthiest communities in the United States.
Right.
How many homes are currently on the market right now?
About 113 single-family homes, which, interesting enough, when I first came in the business in the late 80s, about 40 homes per year was
Wow.
average. Yeah, and that was quite a different time. I bought the house I'm in now in 1981, and in June of 1981, interest rates peaked at about 21.5%.
21.5%, and now they're at just under 4.
Yes.
So it's
yeah.
a great time to buy a house.
Absolutely, you know, when people
Today.
when people worry about interest rates inching up a half a point or
Yeah.
whatever, and you know, the other reason it's great is it's one of the few investments left that the government subsidizes because
Absolutely.
mortgage interest is tax deductible. And
Absolutely.
as you know, having just filed your quarterly returns, there's not a whole lot that Uncle Sam subsidizes. You know.
No, you're not. So home purchases are a good thing.
Yes.
So out of that 113, how many right now are currently listed with
About
Coldwell-Banker?
30% of
30%
the
of
houses.
them.
Yes, and we each year touch about half of the transactions in the town of Wellesley, which means we either bring the buyer, the seller, or in many cases both. So that's the other advantage of working with Coldwell-Banker is we have a whole lot of real-time information. By the time something actually closes, that's old information. What you want to know is what's happening today in the
What's
market.
going on? What's
And
coming
if
on the
you're with
market?
a firm that's touching a lot of these transactions, they have that real-time market knowledge.
How many agents do we have full-time in the Wellesley?
About 65.
65
Which is
agents.
interesting. When I started, it was 20, then we went to about 40, and then we've gathered another 25 agents along the way. And one of the more experienced agents in our office, you know, when confronted with the fact, well, you know, your office is larger and whatever, she would say, yes, and who knows better where they should be working than the agents in the town of Wellesley. So I think that the fact
good
that
point
so many
there.
good agents have chosen to affiliate with Coldwell-Banker is very exciting to me.
That's an excellent point. So let's talk about somebody who's maybe just thinking about listing their home, or let's talk about listing their home first.
Okay.
What's the first things that they should be doing? Like, how do you pick an agent? What do you do?
You know, I think you certainly ask friends. You look at market share within the town. You look at, you know, every week people in the town of Wellesley are bombarded with different marketing pieces and whatever, you know, is what they're sending into your home professional looking. Is their office professional? I mean, when you walk into your office, do you feel like you're at a place of business, or do you feel like you're in your grandmother's living room and whatever? There are any number of things. And certainly get recommendations from your friends who've had good experiences. And then most people, you know, speak with two or three different realtors, which is fine. We welcome the comparison. We think we stand up very well in comparison to the competition. And then, you know, choose a good real estate professional and listen to them. They're going to give you guidance. You know, the way you live is not necessarily the way you want to market your home. People, I mean, if people were to walk into my home right now, my family room is loaded with pictures of my grandchildren, which is great. I come home at night having had a long day, and it puts a smile on my face to look at pictures of my grandchildren. But the potential buyer for my house doesn't want to see that. Not that they're not, wouldn't look at them and say, oh, aren't they cute children or whatever, but it distracts them.
Sure.
So it's important that we go in and say, you know, you've got to get rid of this, get rid of that. We have a home that just went under agreement in the town of Wellesley, and it was on with the competition, and it was a great house in the Dana Hall area. But the house showed old. It didn't show young and fresh. It didn't show the way people are looking at it today. The house came off the market. They spoke with one of the professionals in our office. They did reduce the price to a more appropriate level, but they also went in and staged it. They painted. They rented furniture. They went for what we sort of call the Pottery Barn look. Very neat, very minimalistic, very clean. Someone could walk into that house and imagine their family in it, even if their style wasn't necessarily that style. But they could, they didn't get caught up in this stuff, and that's a problem.
The house,
when people start and maybe they get caught up in it because they really like it. Oh, isn't that a beautiful piece of furniture? Isn't that whatever? But you want them to focus on what we would call the bones of the house. How is this house going to work for me and my family?
How's the roof, foundation, walls?
Right.
Yep, exactly. You're not buying the furniture.
Right.
You're buying the house. Let's talk a little bit about buyer's agents and seller's agents.
Okay.
What's that difference? What does that mean to people?
Well, it's, you know, it used to be that when you worked with an agent, they were a sub-agent of the seller. And quite honestly, that was a very dangerous situation for the seller because they were legally responsible for representations that were made by an agent that may or may not have ever even been in their house, let alone the intricacies of the house. And that agent, you know, you could bring your daughter into a house and you were a sub-agent and presumably you were working for that seller. Well, obviously, if you're showing the house to the daughter, the legal reality of the situation is you're not working for that seller. You're working for that buyer. So buyer agency has clarified that situation. One concern is that buyer agents often think, well, I'm representing the buyer and my job is to beat up on the seller. As a buyer's agent, if something is priced correctly, you have a legal obligation to tell that to your client. In other words, just as a listing broker would come into your house and do a CMA on a property and say, this is what I think your property is worth, a buyer's agent should be doing the same thing for her buyer. And the best I've found in all these years working as a manager, the best real estate deals are the ones where everyone walks away feeling like they got a fair deal.
Absolutely.
If one of the parties feels that they've sort of been bloodied in the process, then that's a transaction that's probably doomed to fail at some point down the road.
So these terms, CMA, competitive market analysis, buyer's agent, seller's agent, is there a guide that people could pick up and really familiarize themselves that Coldwell-Banker produces?
Well, certainly there are disclosures, you know, which clearly delineate the differences between buyers and sellers agents. Certainly, if someone's looking to list a house, we have a guide that will walk them through that. We also have a guide. I'm not sure if that's still the name of it, but it's basically called Dressing Your House for Success, and we tell them, you know, every step of the way what they should be doing to get their house ready. Just a little thing like washing your windows makes all the difference in the world. You know, perhaps you like a house that's warm and cozy, but most buyers today like a house that's filled with light. So we're going to tell you to open your drapes, or maybe in some instances take the drapes down completely or whatever. But that's what a good real estate professional will do for you.
Absolutely, I agree. Coldwell-Banker is big into giving back to the community. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the programs that they have?
Yes, we have a charitable foundation called Coldwell-Banker Cares, and I think it's terrific. The agents give $5 out of each of their transactions to the foundation, and the company matches it dollar for dollar and takes care of all the administrative fees. So they are big sponsors of the Home for Little Wanderers, Community Servings, Rosie's Place. And then in addition, once a year, we have a big gala, and we designate a charity. This year, we gave our money to Home for the Troops, which builds houses for wounded soldiers and whatever. We try to identify a charity that has something to do with the home, since that's where we make our money. In addition, as a local office, we give a lot of money. We gave several $1,000s last year to the Friendly Aid Society to send underprivileged children to camp.
Wonderful.
We give to all the local schools, Fisk, Wild Wild West, Bates Pumpkin Fair, whatever has to do with any school children in Wellesley.
So
we're there to.
So not only are we focusing nationally, but we're also focusing locally.
Oh,
right
very
here.
much so. Yes,
That's
we
great.
support all the high school teams. We
That's
support the Wellesley United Soccer Club. For years, we've been the company that sells the soccer patches, for tournaments. Our receptionist keeps the money box. She keeps the patches and whatever. Yes, we. It's very important, and it's extremely important to me because we are a national company, but we're made up of individuals like you and me who are very invested in the community.
Well, I want to take the time to just thank you, Susan, for coming on the show today. This has been very informative. Certainly, you can watch our show again on Facebook at Another Home Sold. And thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. This is terrific.
Wonderful. Thank you. Again, my name is Steven.Verdelli. I'm a realtor with Coldwell-Banker and the host of Another Home Sold. And please be sure to watch us on Facebook and Twitter. Please stay tuned, as we're going to go to Patton Rd next and tour with one of our agents, Susan Sullivan, of a home that is a new construction property here in Wellesley. Thank you for joining us today, Susan.
You're welcome.
So I'm here with Susan Sullivan, who's been an agent at Coldwell-Banker for how long?
Over 18 years.
18 years. Is that it? And Susan, you raised your family here?
I did. I've lived in Wellesley 28 years since my daughter was born, and we've gone through all the public schools in Wellesley, so I know the elementary schools, middle school, high school, volunteered for many organizations in town, was a member of the Junior Women's Hills Club, vice president, and so on and so forth.
So you're practically a Wellesley native.
Practically.
So you've sold a lot of houses in Wellesley.
I have.
Okay. And I know you specialize in new construction as well as renovations. So let's talk about this house on Patton Rd.
Okay, a little bit about the Patton Rd area, if you'd like to know.
Sure.
It was developed in the 40s and the 50s, and it is now prime for new construction homes. If you drive through that neighborhood, you'll see tear down after tear down because the lots are absolutely perfect for new construction. 10,000 zone homes are going up there, and it's a great neighborhood. It's insulated. It's close to town, and so you're going to see a lot of new construction there.
Now, why is this called the General's area?
Because it was built up right after World War II, and the homes on the streets are named after the presidents.
Oh, okay.
We have Patton, MacArthur.
Wonderful. That makes sense. And this is a short distance to Morse's Pond.
Morse's Pond trails. There are great walking, biking trails right at the end of the street, and it is a nice walk into town on a nice day. It's a great location.
It's a beautiful area. So let's talk about this particular house. Who's the builder here?
This is Jamie Sorelli. He lives in Medfield, but he's been building in Wellesley for over 20 years. Started with renovations, additions, and then went strictly to new construction homes, spec houses, and customs.
Now, what's the difference between a spec house and a custom house?
A spec house is something that a builder would buy the lot or an older home, tear it down, and rebuild new construction and sell it on speculation.
Great. So let's take a look at this house. We've got beautiful center entrance colonial 2-car garage attached.
Mm-hmm. And Jamie, again, this is a very traditional New England home. You have a front to back living room, you have dining room, butler's pantry, brand new kitchen, family room with fireplace.
These are all hardwood floors, I see.
All hardwood floors
Beautiful.
throughout. 9-foot ceilings,
9-foot ceilings.
9-foot ceilings on both first and second floor, and also 9-foot ceilings in the basement, which gives you a really nice feeling of height and space.
Now, I was fortunate enough to take a look at this house and show this to some customers, and I was very impressed there was a full bathroom in the basement as well.
I think that in the new construction in this particular neighborhood, which we're talking, a lot of the builders like to finish the lower level completely because it gives them more space, and that's what the young families want today.
And how high are the ceilings in the basement?
9 foot.
9 foot.
9 foot in this particular basement. He could do a deeper pour because of the level lot.
Okay.
So he has a nice
Great.
and great light in this house. The light is it's a southern exposure, and the light comes in all day long.
And
So
it's a corner lot, which is unusual to have, which is a great feature. Now, this house is how many square feet?
4,600.
And that does not include the basement?
That does include.
That does include the basement. Okay. I see he's picked out some beautiful light fixtures here as well.
Right, and in his dining room, and you'll see as you look through some of the photos, there is some wonderful wainscoting in the dining room, and in the study there's wainscoting that is 3/4 height. Also, it runs through the foyer and up the stairs and to the second floor. So it gives it some nice detail.
Very nice detail. And a gas fireplace?
Gas fireplace, gas cooking, gas heat.
Gas cooking, gas heat. And central air?
Central air.
That's wonderful. And I see these beautiful doors that go out to a deck off the back of the family room?
Correct. Nice sized deck that has, step down to the corner lot, which is a little bit over 11,000 square feet.
Oh, it's a big lot. Now, the kitchen itself, which is always a nice selling feature here. Granite countertops, I see.
Granite counters, stainless steel appliances. All the appliances in this kitchen are Gen Air. The stove is a 6-burner Gen Air with an oven, and then we also have
Oh, double oven there.
double oven and a microwave that's also a convection. So you basically have 3 ovens if you need them during holiday
Wonderful.
time or anything like that.
And bull-nosed around the
right, and
countertops.
the refrigerator and the dishwasher are paneled, so they look like part of the cabinetry.
Very nice. A lot of detail I can tell here.
He's very detail-oriented.
A couple of things that really stood out to me when I saw this house was the laundry room on the second floor also had a sink, which is what you don't see very often.
My favorite room in this house. Having 3
Fantastic.
children and knowing what it's like to do laundry and sports laundry and everything else, this room has a set tub. It has capability of a electric or a gas dryer, and huge closet and hanging space. It is a great laundry room.
Wow, Jamie really thought of everything when he was building this house.
His mudroom is also spectacular.
That is great.
Coming right off the 2-car garage, you come in, you have areas for hooks and cubbies and things like that, and little area for boots in the winter and a little
Now,
bench to sit on.
One of my favorite areas was they had an office right off of the behind the garage, sort of off the mudroom, which is great.
Which is really nice because if you wanted to use it as an office, it's set away from the rest of the house.
Yep.
But also if you wanted to use it for a homework room,
Yep.
or if the mom's there and she wants to be working in her office and the kids are in the kitchen doing homework, it's just accessible to the kitchen area.
So this house has 4 bedrooms
4 bedrooms, 4 full baths, and 1 half bath,
and an office
and an office,
and 2-car garage.
2-car garage.
Double sinks, a jacuzzi
Double
tub.
sinks. In the master, we have a jacuzzi, and we have an oversized glass enclosed shower, separate, double sinks, a commode area, and a linen closet. And if someone would like to see it, they can call Susan Sullivan at Coldwell-Banker, and I would be happy to set up an appointment.
That's fantastic. Susan, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing this beautiful home with
Well,
us.
thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Thanks for watching today. My name is Steven.Verdelli, and I'm a Realtor with Coldwell-Banker in Wellesley. Make sure to look for us on Facebook and Twitter. Have a great day.